Lindo Gutu. James Smart will be joining me in just a few minutes. He has a guest that you really want to listen to. But for now, let's take a look at the top stories tonight.
Letewa mtoto alikuwa anatoa sound ingine fani sijaisikia kwa mtoto wote na povu. Hii povu ilikuwa ya kuvutana.
The pain of losing a child, hospital on the spot for negligence of doctors.
This one is a sticker. It's a sticker which they use to ensure that there's no gas leakage.
Time bomb in the kitchen, alarm over fake cooking gas.
Granted, the Gusii community voted for the gentleman, but this did not give his henchmen the license to transport drunken goons to the funeral to heckle anybody who did not sound like he was reading from the same script as the retired Prime Minister.
Was it Raila government's take on Kisii heckling? And stealing from the dead and justice from the living. Many thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with what regulators have termed as a case of medical negligence. It is the story of a woman who lost her baby in the hands of unqualified doctors and a hospital that has now been fined for failing in its duties. But as Angel Katusia reports, 3 years on, the woman still has no prospects of being compensated for her painful loss.
At the Victory Hospital in Umoja, Joan Akinyi makes a return to a place that gives her nightmares. This is where she would have celebrated the birth of her 4th child if all went according to plan. That was way back in 2011.
Ilikuwa tarehe 1 mwezi wa 3 2011 saa 9 nilivyokuwa naenda kuoga. Normally wa unaambiwa ukienda clinic ukiona kitu strange kwa mwili yako na una mimba, kitu kama damu nini, unafaa kukimbia to the nearest clinic. Si lazima uende ile hospitali unaenda.
This was that nearby hospital.
Daktari nikapeleka kwa room ya daktari, nikamwelezea daktari vile nimeona, akanambia room yake kuna kitanda, akanambia nipande, akaniambia ataniangalia huko chini, akaangalia, akaniambia cervix imefunguka. Nikamuuliza pesa yake ni ngapi ya kuzalisha, akanambia ni 60,000. Sasa sikuwa na hiyo 60,000 lakini sikutaka kuzalia hapo. Nikamwambia sina hiyo pesa. Akanambia atanipunguzia. Ya kwanza lipunguza up to 55, nikamwambia sina. Tukaenda 50, 40 mpaka tulivyokuja agreement 25,000.
Her decision to deliver at the Victory Hospital, she says, was the worst she ever made.
Nilikataa kupanda kitanda, nikamwambia hapana, mimi naona sitazaa hapa. Manake hii theater yenu hazina zile vitu nilikuwa na expect, zile nishawahi ona. Hakuna incubator, hakuna saka. Hizo ni vitu normal, mwanamke amezaa lazima ajue hizo vitu. Nikamwambia hata hii kitanda yako ni kitanda tofauti na zile za theater.
She was finally aided to deliver, but her troubles got worse.
Manake hapo alinipasua tumbo, nikasikia uchungu akivuta mtoto, nikasema ai, akaniuliza kwani umesikia uchungu? Akaambia aniongeze dawa. Kaniambia John, uchungu umesikia, nilikuwa najaribu kuvuta kichwa mtoto lakini kichwa imekwama. Sasa wacha nirudishe ndani haraka nipasue tena sehemu kubwa. Alifinya mtoto akirudisha ndani apasue tumbo. Mtoto alivotolewa, mtoto alilia vizuri. Nikasikia nasa akisema mtoto amekunywa maji wapi saka. Mwenzake alimjibu saka haifanyi.
She finally lost her baby under circumstances that she cannot explain to date. At the time of death, the baby was in bad condition. Her nose cut off, her tongue missing, and had cuts on her legs. John claims a pathologist who did a post-mortem examination on her baby told her she had been killed. And now the Medical Practitioners Board has given its verdict.
Daktari ambaye mmoja ametozwa faini ya 1,300 na hospitali imetozwa gharama ya 1,600.
But that is just as far as the board go. It has no power to order the hospital to compensate John.
The hospital has been directed to enter into a mediation with the complainant because the hospital was found guilty on the allegations of professional misconduct, and therefore they are required to sit together and agree on the level of compensation.
The board, however, says the hospital has to comply with the orders and agree on compensation terms with Joan, but Joan is unconvinced.
Nataka waniambie parts za mtoto wangu alipeleka wapi.
As Joan waits for the wheels of justice to grind, her plight has triggered many questions. If indeed the hospital had no qualified doctors, why was it ever given an operating license? Why has the doctor who attended to Joan not been held to account? And will Joan ever get real justice? Angel Katuse, KTN Prime.
In Cabinet, the government finally laid down some details that might help women like Joanne to deliver in respectable hospitals. President Uhuru Kenyatta has ordered the Ministry of Health to hire 40 new health workers per constituency to handle the increasing demand for free maternity services in public hospitals. This will bring the total to 11,600 new health workers to be hired nationally. Also, the cabinet meeting was told that since the free maternity services kicked off, that is on the 1st of June this year, deliveries in public hospitals have doubled and no deaths have resulted from the increased demand. Uhuru was told that deliveries in public hospitals have grown from 44% in June to 80% at present. The president ordered Treasury to ensure that funds earmarked for the free maternity services are released on time to ensure the health facilities cope with the massive take-up of the services by the public. All right, you're watching KTN Prime, and we thank you for staying with us. Let me now bring my colleague James Smart, who is set to have a very interesting conversation. Smart.
All right, Linda, here at the summit, I'm seated and I'll be talking shortly with the chairman of the Council of Governors, that is Governor Isaac Ruto, and we are going to discuss just a few things. One, that move initiated by the governors on getting 1 million signatures to protect devolution. That is a discussion that we'll be having not too far from now, Linda.
James Smart will be talking to Isaac Ruto in just a few minutes. That's the discussion you do not want to miss. Let's move on with the bulletin and look at cooking gas. Authorities here in Nairobi have discovered what they say is a racket of unscrupulous dealers illegally filling gas cylinders. The dealers use fake stickers bearing names of respectable gas supplying companies. But as Ofio Anuna now reports, it is dangerous business.
Right in the heart of Wesley sits a time bomb, literally waiting to go off. Hundreds of gas cylinders are filled here each day. Fake stickers from different trademark holders put on them, and evidence of paintwork that is done on the cylinders to dupe customers. Early afternoon, and the anti-counterfeit agency officers raid the premises, and in the process, this retailer is arrested for allegedly being behind the illegal gas refilling in Isli, Don Bosco area. Over 1,000 cylinders of different sizes of gas are recovered in the raid.
So these are quite elaborate activities which is done to ensure that they have done counterfeiting of cylinders.
A few minutes spent here and one gets nauseous from the fumes emanating from the cylinders. Other cylinders are stored in the basement of the one-story flat. And these hundreds of gas cylinders are stored here, right in the middle of a residential flat in Isili, posing a great danger to the area residents.
So safety precautions have not been observed. So you can see these are activities of health hazards.
Officers from the anti-counterfeit body say they followed crucial leads, and after conducting surveillance and investigations, narrowed down on Andrew Kiruri, the owner of the business. They approximate that the cylinders found could be worth 3 million shillings. The officers say legal business ventures present unfair competition in the market, but most importantly, they pose a great danger to unsuspecting customers. The bust comes just days after the Kenya Association of Manufacturers raised the red flag on counterfeit goods in the market. KAM says manufacturers incur losses of up to 30 billion shillings annually, while the government loses 6 billion shillings in potential revenue.
I'm urging Kenyans to take more precautions whenever they are purchasing gas cylinders, because these are things that you normally keep it in your house.
So the next time you purchase a gas cylinder, you might want to buy it from an authorized dealer at a licensed center. Sophia Wanuna, KTN.
The icy relations between the Jubilee and Court coalition may be headed for a more complicated phase. The government is now blaming former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for the heckling of leaders at the Gusii Stadium on Tuesday during a funeral service. Government spokesperson Muthui Kariuki says Raila and his sidekicks planned it all. In a strongly worded statement, the government is also accusing the former Prime Minister of refusing to surrender 6 government vehicles and using an illegal siren.
And we will work with the leaders of the teaching fraternity.
The Tuesday heckling of the ICT Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who was to deliver President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech during the burial service for 15 students killed in a road accident, was perhaps the latest pointer to the frosty relations between the government and the opposition. And the government is blaming the showdown at the Gusii Stadium on former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Raila's sidekicks spent 3 days, and I repeat, 3 days in Gusii County plotting how they would disrupt the funeral.
In a strongly worded statement titled "Raila has become toxic," the government spokesman condemned Raila for turning the funeral service into a political rally.
This was not only morally repugnant, but also callous in the extreme.
Political leaders from Kisii too have condemned the heckling at the Gusii Stadium.
We therefore do not want anybody to use our youth to settle their political scores by driving a wedge between the Kisiis and the government.
But the government's war of words with Raila does not end with the Kisii showdown. The government is now claiming that the former Prime Minister has refused to surrender government vehicles 3 months after he left office.
He is forever mourning that the government is not giving him recognition. Yet he has refused to return 6 government vehicles. He has gone on and bought what, according to the police, is an illegal, strobe light, which he puts on, his goons put on one of his vehicles. And is forever driving all over town in the wrong direction.
The government spokesman, however, could not confirm whether the government had asked Raila to surrender the 6 cars. But the latest government claims will no doubt add to the intrigues in the Court-Jubilee relations. Rita Tinina, KTN.
The Big Q, in association with Nguvu Cement.
So government spokesman Muthui Kariuki says Raila and his sidekicks planned it all. On our big question tonight, we are asking you, do you support the government's attack on Raila over the Kisii saga? Send us your yes or no answer, of course, with the brief comment to the number 8040. You can tweet us as well at KTN Kenya, at Linda Ogutu, at James Smart. We will sample some of those views at the end of this newscast.
Choose Nguvu for undoubted strength.
The road to devolution, that is the discussion that James Smart is having with Isaac Ruto. James Smart, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Linda. And let's just get quick into it. And in studio, I'm joined by the Governor of Bomet, the chairman of the Council of Governors.
Council.
Yeah, Council. Yes. One Isaac Ruto. Just a quick reaction from you. The government, from the incident in Kisii, where a cabinet secretary was heckled, the government now says that the former Prime Minister is the one behind that plot, and the country seems to be in an elective mood. What are your thoughts about it? Just a quick reaction to that.
No. I think we are giving prominence to non-issues. What we should be busy doing right now is to concentrate on implementing the agenda of development. And we should forget about personalities, and we should forget about dramatizing unnecessary issues.
Speaking of which, the Council of Governors is now talking about getting 1 million signatures to protect devolution, if you like, getting more powers for the senators, for the Senate, so that devolution can be protected in a sense. Tell me more about this.
Yes, indeed. I think it is apparent And it appears that there are forces that are out to ensure that Kenya does not get the full benefits of devolved systems of government. As of now, we hear of plans to claw back on the gains so far. We've this week received information that certain government departments want to take back certain functions, including money already assigned. The 210, they now want to reduce it to 130 billion. Instead of the 210 they had talked about much earlier, which we were already saying is not enough. Now we are being told about 70 billion is supposed to go back to central government for functions they claim we are unable to perform. And you can imagine such functions include roads. And to do what in roads? Just to put maram and to grade them and to make sure they are passable. That's all. And they are telling us there is no capacity. And they have been doing that job in the rural areas all along. Districts have been doing it. Under the Constitutional Development Fund committees. But now the governors who are fully fledged with budgets and experts cannot perform such functions. In my view, it is therefore necessary for us to ring-fence these gains in a stronger constitutional provision.
I must ask you this. The president and his deputy have met you several times,
Yes.
governors and senators, and they've said all out that we want devolution to work. From the
Yes.
onset, that's what we hear.
Yes.
You're saying right now, it appears that is not the ultimate truth.
Yes, because it was in the papers even yesterday. They have told us as much. We have received it from cabinet secretaries that they want to take back some of the functions. We've heard it from top government leaders that counties have no capacity, and yet we don't know what that capacity is. So we have told them ourselves we are not willing to handle for now procurement of vaccines and procurement of drugs. We want to get them from KEMSA. But the question of roads, the question of water, the question of healthcare, the question of cooperatives, the question of agriculture, we can do those ones. But we hear they still want to come and do water pans. They want to do markets. They also want to do other mundane issues that can be handled locally. And they want to create other parallel programs similar to CDF, new ones. So they want to create new organizations within the counties to start implementing projects. We are getting lost as to where we are at the moment.
Where we are right now, who's the enemy of devolution?
Yes.
Who's the enemy of devolution?
I think elements within central government that are used to having resources all to themselves, they are aghast at the possibility of these resources being dispersed all over Kenya. According to us, we want new growth centers in those counties, and we want healthcare in every corner of this republic. We want roads done in every part of this republic. We want water. These are basics we are talking about right now. We are not even talking about tarmac roads right now. We are talking about a passable road for somebody to get to the health center. Those are the basics that we are asking for right now.
All right. Just the other day, when you voiced your displeasure on some of the things, some MPs, notably coming from Rift Valley, came through and addressed a press conference, and they said that you should be in government, should not be criticizing government, and that in fact, if you are bold enough, you should leave URP.
I think they are off the mark. First of all, as a governor, I'm not required to leave my post, even if I were to leave the party. The Constitution does not provide for that. That provision they are talking about only affects MPs and senators, not governors. A governor is not in any party as such.
So you can leave URP?
I can. They can say I'm not a member. They can deregister me. I'm still a governor. The constitutional provisions does not provide for a governor to leave office because of party issues. First of all, you are expected, once elected, to work for everybody. And by the way, I'm not pushing a partisan agenda. I'm talking as the chairman of the Council of Governors, and all the 47 governors, irrespective of their political parties, are committed to the implementation of the new constitution and the realization of divorce system of government, so that we can then be able to provide services to the people. And we committed ourselves as Jubilee and URP and put it in our manifesto that we are actually going to devote 40% of the resources. If you can read the manifesto of URP, Jubilee, you will find 40%. What did we do this year? We put in 15%, 14%. Some people tell me it is 34%. When you talk about 190 in 1.6 trillion budget, if that is 34%, then I don't understand mathematics. I need to go back to really recheck where I went wrong.
How's your relationship with the Deputy President, William Ruto? Because would appear and would assume that it would be easy for you someone that you're in the party for a long time with, campaigned with for a long time, easy for you to go and sit with him and tell him, listen, the devolution is not working, there's a problem here and there, and thrash it out?
I have done that. I have done that. We have even met with the president. We have explained these issues. We even asked that before they passed the Division of Revenue Bill, I asked for the constitution of the Budget and Economic Council in which we would have attended. But they ignored that and went ahead to hold their own meetings and decide on the amount of money to be disbursed. So we are still talking to them. We are open to talks. But nevertheless, we as governors have decided that it is better these issues are anchored in law. And indeed, I told them after the summit that we are going to seek the Kenyans' intervention in this because they got lost. They told us that they were confused because Parliament started fighting with the Senate and therefore they didn't know what to do and the timelines were coming to. So we told them that we are going to help them. We will get it very clear in the Constitution that this is the amount that must go. And we'll make it in the Constitution clear that the Senate is supposed to protect devolution and counties. And that is what we'll be asking Kenyans.
Final question for me.
Yeah.
It means this will end in a referendum.
Yes.
There is no stopping for you.
No. Absolutely.
Isaac Ruto.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for making time to be there.
Asante.
All right, we'll be talking to the chairman of the Council of Governors, Isaac Ruto, and he says this push will end in the ballot, if you like.
James Smart having a very interesting conversation. James Smart, thank you so much. Now, today, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission was in a last-ditch effort to affix the details of Mutula Kilonzo Jr. on the ballot paper, of course, to pave way for tomorrow's by-election in Makueni. It has been a race that has been full of controversy. Let me bring in KTN's Aaron Ochieng, who's standing by for us in Makueni. Aaron, if you can hear me, this is a race really that has brought a lot of questions, a lot of controversy. By mid this morning, ballot papers had not arrived in several of the centers, and a lot of people there were not happy with the fact that Mutula Kilonzo Jr.'s details will be affixed on the ballot paper. How are the preparations? What is the mood like down there?
Well, I can hear you loud and clear, Linda Ogutu. We are in Makueni County, and as you've rightly put it, tension is high here in Makueni, just by the mere fact that people are not quite sure whether the name of Mutula Kilonzo Jr. will be in the ballot paper or not, because what we've learned is that the situation at the Bomas of Kenya is that they are still putting the name of Mutula Kilonzo in some of the ballot papers that are yet to be received here. What we know is that there are several constituencies which have received the ballot papers, but where we are pitched camp here in Makueni County, not yet any ballot paper has been received yet. And we anticipate that in the next 8 hours or so, when we will be when the polling stations will be opened, the ballot papers will be here in time for the election. Earlier, yesterday, we saw chaos in some parts of Makueni County, with the residents expressing discontent with IEBC's decision in Nairobi on the modalities that they were carrying out in regard to Mutula Kilonzo Jr. They're suspecting that maybe there's some foul play being played somewhere in regard to Mutula Kilonzo based on what happened to the younger sister, Kathy Kilonzo. Besides that, IEBC is saying that everything is in place. They have already ordered more police officers just to beef up security here ahead of tomorrow's election. 5 candidates are up running for this particular election, and the IEBC official that we spoke to earlier have indicated that no one should be worried in regard to whose name should be there or not. They're saying everyone's name will be there, and Mutula Kilonzo's situation is different. This is the first time that IEBC is facing this particular situation where they have to put a name of a candidate just a few hours before polls are opened. Now, we've moved to different parts of the county. We've moved to different polling stations, but the situation is that no ballot papers have been received, particularly here in Makueni, and this is one of the constituencies which has one of the highest number of registered voters who will be voting out early tomorrow morning. Earlier on, I spoke to IEBC Commissioner Thomas Letangule, who in fact was handling the tribunal that was looking into the disputes that were arising after the nominations. And this is what he had to clarify in regard to tomorrow's by-election.
Yes, as IEBC, I want to say that we are really prepared for these by-elections. Right now, as we are in water, and as you can see behind me, these are our presiding officers collecting materials for the various polling stations. So all the 914 polling stations are receiving materials. As I'm talking to you now, we are in Nairobi. We are busy lifting the ballot papers to the various constituencies within this county. So IBC is well prepared. Our ICT systems are also in place, and I think everything systems go. So far, apart from the challenges of the delay caused by the inclusion of the name of Junior in the ballot paper in the last minute, however, we are surmounting that, and I think we'll be able, despite the time constraints, to deliver materials within time. We're also grateful that the weather within this county is good. So far, no rain. So we will think that we'll deliver materials within time, and the ballot papers will also be in place. And so all the stations will be open on time tomorrow morning, beginning from 6. And so we think that we are prepared. And Wananchi so far have been also peaceful. There have been no insecurity issues arising. Yes.
Linda and smarter, as Thomas Letangule has just put it, everything is in place. And at 6 o'clock, we'll be giving you all the live updates that will be happening in all the 6 constituencies, that is Kibwezi East, Kibwezi West, Mboni, Kaiti, Makueni, and Kilome. That is where the battle for the seat of Makueni County in bid to replace the late Mutula Kilonzo will be happening. So right up after 6 o'clock, we'll be giving you all the updates from all the 6 counties.
Aaron, stay with me for just a second if you can. Aaron, stay with me for just a second if you can. Yeah. In your earlier interview, you spoke to the IEBC official and you made it clear that all preparations are underway. But from what you told us earlier, Aaron, is that as we speak at the Bomas of Kenya, IEBC officials are still affixing Mutula Kilonzo Jr.'s details on the ballot paper. Have you spoken to any of the IEBC officials as at now? Because it's 10, really, just hours to the by-election on. And what assurances are they giving?
Yeah, earlier on at 1 o'clock, I spoke to Abdullahi Sharawe, who is one of the commissioners, and he said this is the first time that this is happening. And you can look at the numbers. This is a constituency which has close to 400 registered voters. That means that they have 400,000 ballot papers. And this is an exercise that cannot be done using any machine. This is something that has to be done manually. So I would say that for someone to employ manually 400,000 pieces of papers just to put a strip of paper, I would understand why IEBC had to send papers to the farthest constituency other than here. So I expected that this is something that they didn't anticipate would bring such like a situation, but I expected that by 6 o'clock maybe all the constituencies will have received all the ballot papers. Linda.
Aaron, thank you very much. Aaron Acheng there speaking to us from Makueni. Just a few hours to the Makueni senatorial by-election. We'll keep an eye on it for you and let you know what happens tomorrow. There are 5 candidates in this by-election. Edith Kimani now profiles each of them. Edith.
Well, thank you, Linda. Let's get straight to it. And the first name to come up on the screen is Albanas Katumo. Now, this is just one of the aspirants, one of the 5, as Linda has mentioned, eyeing the Makueni senatorial seat. This will be the second time that Katumo is trying his hand at the seat, and he was a contestant for the same position in the March general elections. Not a fan of political parties, it appears, Katumo in March vied as an independent candidate, and he will be running independently again in the by-election as well. well. The second person who will be on the ballot papers tomorrow is Haron Mwau, the first director of this Kenya Anti-Corruption Agency, a former member of parliament and of course a former assistant minister. Businessman Haron Mwau is certainly no rookie to politics. Neither is he a rookie to elections. Now, Mwau got into politics in 1992 when he unsuccessfully contested the presidency as an independent candidate. This will also be Mwau's second attempt at the Makueni Senate seat after losing to the late Mutula Kilonzo in March. His approach for the by-election has reportedly this time been door-to-door campaigns, which he hopes, of course, will be enough to clinch him the seat. Mwau is seeking the seat on a party of independent candidates of Kenya, or PIC, if you like. Then the next person, number 3, is Philip Kaloki. The former MP for Kibwezi, Philip Kaloki, also knows a thing or two about elections. Now, before joining politics, Kaloki was a business lecturer at the University of Dallas, and in 2008, he was elected to represent Kibwezi. He completely immersed himself in politics at that point, and he was a member of the Speaker's panel in the 10th Parliament and also sat in various House committees. In the March 4th election, Kaloki vied for the Makueni governor seat, and this was on a Wiper ticket, and then lost to Professor Kivutha Kibwana. Kaloki has since jumped ship to join the Jubilee coalition, where he will be seeking votes as a NARC candidate. Who else will be on that ballot? The only female contestant in this by-election, that's Jane Kitundu. She will be the only female, as we have said, and she is a registered nurse who has worked in Kenya and also in the state of Florida, and that's in the United States. She also holds a diploma in neurology and neurosurgery. Kitundu left the United States, where she had been working as an emergency nurse just last year, and wasted no time pursuing her political ambitions. Now, initially, she was hoping to get the senator's seat in Makueni, but Kitundu says that she dropped those ambitions during the general election, saying it was to pave way for the late Mutula Kilonzo. She, however, contested the Makueni County Women Representative seat, but lost to Rose Museo. Jane Kitundu is vying for the seat on an LPK ticket and had hoped that the CORD coalition would support her after Kevi Kilonzo's bid flopped. Mutula Kilonzo Jr., that's the last person on this list, and that's who IEBC is running, whose name they're running to affix on the ballot papers. This is the latest entrant into the race and also the youngest contestant in the by-election. 38-year-old Mutula Kilonzo Jr. is hoping to take over his late father's position in Makueni. An advocate of the High Court, Mutula Jr. was named as the CORD candidate after his sister, Kevi Kilonzo, through an IEBC tribunal, and a court ruling later locked her out from contesting this seat. By his own admission, Mutula Jr. says he had refused to vie for the seat earlier, saying personal objections would not allow it. But now, the Wiper candidate says he is ready, and in an interview with KTN, Mutula Jr. said he would take up what was his father's vision for Makueni County should he be elected. And that is the shape of the Makueni race. Of course, we'll keep tabs on who exactly will win this race.
Have you heard of Kenyans who raid and rob the dead in their graves soon after burial?
Well, Eldoret residents pounded on 4 such suspects and beat them nearly to death.
And they were angry enough to want to bury the suspects in the same grave they were allegedly caught robbing.
Well, here's a story from Eldoret.
At a family gravesite in Plateau, Eldoret, irate residents take matters into their own hands. They descend upon 4 suspected grave thieves. The area chief, who was against the application of instant justice, had a hard time restraining residents who were beating up the suspects. It was a case of being caught in the act for the suspected thieves, whom residents claim have been digging up graves and making away with clothes and any valuables the dead are laid to rest with. They were discovered just as they finished digging up the remains which had been buried in this grave. Their tools of trade were at hand. 2 suspects are said to have escaped. Those who were unlucky claim they were duped into the mission.
Mimi niliitwa tu na vichana wenye walisema wamepata treasure box. Ati waone wachimbe kama watapata vitu ya chairman.
They claim those who recruited them assured them they would find items left behind by Germans.
Tofu, pasi, makafuli, mafuria. Wajerumani wenyewe vile walienda ndio walikuwa wanaweka kwa mashimo.
The four are due to be arraigned in court as the police hunt for the two who escaped. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Well, that what they were looking for?
I have no idea whether it's the coffin, but most of them go in there looking for coffins.
That grave is many years old. You can't find the coffin later.
Okay, souvenirs? Souvenirs?
What souvenirs?
Yeah, we are pondering over that. Now to a gold rush that has left in its wake more pain than gain.
Well, we're talking about an old mine in Migori County that is still waiting to live up to its fame.
On Frontier tonight, KTN's Western Kenya reporter Fred Omulo takes a closer look at why finally these residents are looking up with hope.
Welcome to the gold-laden pits of Nyanza, where many an ignorant trader has become a millionaire through sheer hard work. Thousands of artisans have earned a living here over the last 4 decades, but the blessings in the dirt have brought innumerable curses with them.
Sisi ndio tunapata shida kulingana sasa wakati wa manyefu ya mvua. Unakuta simu imeingia maji na tuna ni njia ya kutafuta pesa, inabidi tuingie humo ndani kutafuta. Tukisaitoa gold tangiwe igeuke gold inatoka kwenye process nyingi.
One of the advantages of artisanal mining in this region is the low levels of unemployment among the youth. More than any other trade, many prefer to channel their efforts here with the knowledge that each day they will earn about 500 shillings. But the unregulated nature of business leaves the door open to many abuses, with children as young as 10 working the mines. Some of the artisans here know no other source of livelihood. Whilst various authorities in the country have an interest in these mines, none has ever bothered to provide these artisans through their cooperatives with better equipment. The local CDF administration has only helped through flooding of pits to enhance gold harvesting.
The perfect solution to unemployment. Nature has endowed this region with copious amounts of gold, but the rudimentary manner in which it is mined leaves a lot to be desired.
But the simple tools notwithstanding, gold digging has evolved into a cottage industry that directly employs almost 2,000 miners and traders. The ripple effects extend beyond Migori town to Nairobi's jewelers and commodity exporters.
Ni sisi wenyewe ndio tunajiuza hapa, alafu tunapeana Wahindi. Na Wahindi nao wanatufinya na bei zao ambao hao wenyewe ndio wameweka. Na bei ya nje ni kubwa, lakini hao wanatufinya na bei. Hata tukifanya hiyo kazi yote ngumu, kwenda kuinunua unainua na bei ya chini. Sasa ikufaidi sana.
Nyatike MP Idi Kanyanga has been a vocal opponent of the activities of various mining interests that have continually hovered around Makalda and neighboring mines. Key among these is Mid-Migori, originally known as Migori Gold Mining Limited, that is associated with former Permanent Secretary James Madhenge. Last year, a parliamentary report lambasted the firm for various misdeeds since it obtained its exploration and prospection license in 1988.
They realized that Migori did not have any legal license from the County Council of Migori, and Red Rock did not even have either. So to me, I think those two companies are not supposed to, or are not even allowed to step in Nyatike to prospect for gold in Nyatike constituency.
The report from Parliament's Departmental Committee on Land and Natural Resources in August last year accused Mid-Migori of various misdeeds, including operating without a license from Migori County Council, getting locked in land disputes with residents, and prospecting for gold from 1989 without discovering any viable deposits. Immediately after that, the firm finally produced results from its exploration activities and adopted a conciliatory tone towards the issue.
Being able to interact with the stakeholders and the community, just being able to demystify what Mid-Migori has been doing and to set the record straight. And we found that actually a number of cases are just misinformation, lack of information. So people who understand what Mid-Migori is doing and where it wants to go, they are quite positive about it.
The artisans fear that the firm will lock them out of rich mines once it obtains a mining license, despite the fact that both players are needed to fully work the mines.
Sasa nataka kuchukua hapa. Halafu wachukue wajenge nyumba zao. Na huku Mikei wamepangiza tu. Na kwa hiyo nilikuwa nataka hapa Nyatike. Na tulibambana hawa wakasema lazima watachukua hapa. na tulikataa, tukaandika barua hapa, tukaomba serikali, wakapeleka maneno mpaka bunge.
The pits in Nyatike are estimated to hold gold deposits worth 50 billion shillings, with the copper value still undetermined. So far, all the artisans who have worked the pits over the last 4 decades have only managed to partially exploit about 10% of this amount. If sustainably exploited, this could become one of the richest counties in the region, if only the forces of impunity allow this to happen.
If we can develop the strategies that we have so that we can start mining the minerals within this country, we will not borrow from outside Kenya.
From Migori County, I am Fred Omulo.
Welcome, it's time for business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Players in the mining industry and the government are blaming each other for the poor development of the sector in Kenya. However, the two teams have vowed to join efforts to see the realization of the Mining Bill 2013. KTN's Boni Tunya attended the mining sector roundtable with the government and reports on the challenges in the sector.
Foreign mining companies represented at the meeting were the first to shoot at the government, citing unfavorable laws enforced by the National Environmental Management Authority, arguing the cost implications and the duration of clearance of such laws discourage exploration activities in the country. The companies called for the removal of the mandatory environmental impact assessment report by the government, as well as the improvement of the country's mapping system. But Cabinet Secretary for Mining Najib Balala blamed the private sector for placing unnecessary roadblocks on the path to the passage of the Mining Bill 2013, which seeks to streamline the industry dealings.
The minute it is closer to its legislation, to Parliament, a plug is pulled off and the process starts again. So maybe it's very convenient to have the old bill or the old act, and the industry is not very keen to move with the new bill, or maybe the industry is benefiting too much and the public is raising issues with the government that we don't benefit as a nation.
In a quest to clamp down on illegal licensing of mining companies, the government has halted the issuance of any new licenses for now to give it time to come up with a comprehensive policy.
There are some things we don't agree, but it doesn't mean we don't discuss them. But the issue of you sell your license, you gain tremendously, you must pay those extra taxes to the government.
Currently, the government has issued a total of 500 licenses, but only 20 are active, with the majority being used for speculative purposes by small miners. Among incentives proposed by the government include the redefinition of tax laws, as well as the gazettement of exclusive mining zones for small miners. Boni Tunya for KTN Business.
Thanks, Bonnie. Now, the National Social Security Fund has been given the green light to construct 30,000 housing units on its land in Movoko. This follows cabinet approval earlier today, with the government keen to bring more housing units onto the market. The project will be undertaken under a public-private partnership framework, with a partner to be identified in due course. Cabinet also approved a proposal by the Ministry of Energy to withdraw charges imposed on electricity generation, transmission and distribution by local authorities and other government agencies. The ministry has been tasked with adding 5,000 kilowatts of power to the national grid in a bid to reduce the cost of power to below 10 cents per kilowatt. During the meeting chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta, Cabinet also approved bilateral air service agreements between Kenya, Angola, Canada and Mozambique to allow code sharing between Kenya Airways and national carriers of the three countries. The Ministry of Transport was also directed to improve cargo clearance at airports and border posts to boost free flow of goods with the East African region. And looking at more business, after watching 4 years as its market share slipped away, Postal Corporation now says it is ready to face competition and embrace technology. This it expects to increase its revenues threefold in 3 years. Adelaide Changole with more.
In the last decade, Posta Kenya has had to battle companies that have entered its turf and eaten into its market share. Moreover, the rising popularity of the internet saw the giant firm relegated to the very fringes of the new world. But Posta Kenya is now launching an offensive to restore its competitive edge.
We are going to implement a profit-centered model of business so that accountability is at every level.
The company says it will focus its energies on shoring up its courier, mail and financial services segments as it seeks to grow at 39% over the next 3 years. To meet this goal, Posta will embrace the use of technology, develop new products and diversify its sources of financing. This, the company hopes, will boost revenues from the 3.5 billion shillings registered in the year ended June 30th to 9 billion shillings in 2016.
I want to tell you that ICT is not a product. And so it is not coming to kill Posta's products. ICT is an enabler so that we can have better lives.
But to achieve its goals, Posta wants the state to change existing laws to become more friendly to technological advances.
We need a law that backs us on that one. A law that backs the use of electronic documents officially.
Mail business accounts for the lion's share of Posta's revenues, bringing in 2.7 billion shillings of the 3.5 billion realized in the year ended June 30th. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business Today.
Poor infrastructure, insecurity and minimal marketing strategies employed by the government have been cited as some of the hurdles to the hotel and hospitality industry in Kenya. As a result, county governments are being challenged to take up these responsibilities in order to attract more visitors to the devolved governments. Other challenges facing the sector include lack of quality workforce in different levels, a factor that continues to undermine the sector. This happens even as more international hotel chains show interest in setting shop in Kenya. Counties have also been challenged to brand and market themselves as a tourist destination to help the country meet its 1 million tourists per year. These remarks came up during the official opening of this year's hotel and hospitality industry at the KICC in Nairobi.
Sports police in Murang'a are searching for the men suspected to have gang-raped a donkey in Maragua. That doesn't sound right, but it is a trend that seems to be picking up in many places. Men engaging in unnatural acts with domestic animals. Tonight, KTN's Najma Ismail examines this strange phenomena that has baffled even experts on human behavior.
What has happened to our society?
It has been the talk of town, with a recent case reported in Maragua, Murang'a County, where a donkey died after 4 men allegedly tied its hind legs and performed the monstrous act.
Sijui watoto wetu watalelea watoto hao wapi. Mungu.
So what drives a man to do this kind of act?
People who are sadomasochists, people who enjoy inflicting pain and deriving pleasure out of that and getting sexual satisfaction.
Having intercourse with animals is a taboo and is outlawed in Kenya. And one 40-year-old, Paul Kihia, was yesterday arraigned in court for committing an unnatural act with a chicken last week. However, Dr. Kigamo says before the culprits are taken to court, they should first be taken to a mental hospital to determine their state of mind.
Cure is not a very easy thing to define, but certainly people who have zoophilia, depending on the basis of that zoophilia, can go into therapy and be helped to come out of it. There's a risk involved in having sexual contact with animals, because the animals also carry other forms of diseases.
Statistics indicate that cases of bestiality across the country rose to 50 last year as compared to 10 reported in 2011. 49 cases were reported in 2010, while 9 cases were reported in 2009, with 2008 seeing 22 such cases. Najma Ismail, KTN Prime.
All right, some football now. The 2010 Kenya Premier League champions Ulinzi Stars may not be able to replicate their 2010 winning form, but coach Salim Ali has been forced to work on his blunt forward line that has been shooting blanks. leaving Ulinzi Stars 6th on the league table and playing second fiddle to pace setters Gor Mahia. Hassan Juma with the details.
Ulinzi Stars class of 2013 is far from their colleagues who delivered the title in 2010. And the forward line is what has been causing head coach Salim Ali sleepless nights. But the narrow victory against Emil Sugar on Wednesday has somewhat rebuilt the team's belief that all is not lost.
Is scoring. That's the main undoing in the team.
And while he assures us that he is not under pressure to deliver the trophy, he feels his team's lack of consistency is due to lack of self-belief. Even as the team ranks amongst the best sides in the league with a mean backline.
But playing like 2010, it will be not realistically, because 2010 a lot of things happened at that time. This time round, things have happened differently.
The Defence Forces side is playing catch-up in the league after being away for a fortnight for the Military World Games in Azerbaijan. According to Captain Evans Amwaka, who scored the lone goal against Emil Sugar, the exposure in Eastern Europe will translate to better results as they try to emulate the class of 2010.
And translate whatever we got from that tournament to the league. I think we will be unstoppable.
Ulinzi Stars takes on City Stars at the Hope Center this weekend. For KTN Sports Today, I'm Hassan Juma.